1. Just some backstory. Front desk assistant, small hotel, less than 40 rooms, located in Prague outside of city center. We usually know roughly all of the guests that already checked in just by faces. My manager is never here, but always on the line if something happens, and it is very usual that around 1 or 2 p.m. I am the only one at the hotel. This sucks security-wise, and of course, if something breaks I am screwed and shouted at. This time it's a different story though. We had this lady who usually did Booking.com reservation for just one night. According to my manager, she was at the hotel many times in the past 3 years, and kept extending every day, usually here like 4 days straight. Her card was always empty, and always non-refundable. Many times, actually, I was trying to explain that this won't work in the future for me, and a simple trick is to book it refundable, and have at least a little bit of money on the card. She nodded and thanked me, but still kept her card empty. One thing to note was that she was always having her kid on the room, roughly 12 years old, even on the work days, which did mean that the kid was not attending school, but whatever. My manager did not care as long as she was paying in time. We had zero problems with her up until now. A day before it happened, roughly 10 a.m., I see her kid pass through the reception and I stop him and ask him to tell his mother to pay if she wants to stay in the room before 11 a.m. Or they will have to leave the room and check in at 2 p.m. as usual because of cleaning and stuff. He said, "Mom is sleeping and I don't want to wake her up." After that, he storms off as I try to explain what is going to happen otherwise, though I keep my cool. Later that day, around 11:30, I come to the door knocking. I can hear them inside talking but no response, so I knock harder until I seriously bang on the doors. Then she is the one to open the door and just said, "Give me the caviar. I don't have any money yet and I have to go to the ATM." Completely bullshit, as I knew her card was empty. That kind of started me, but I said, "Fine." I said, "You have 20 minutes though, because if you don't pay we need to clean the room and get it ready for other guests." So as the day goes on, I check in many people. It is already around 4 p.m. and she is nowhere to be seen. So I had a decision to make. Do I evict the kid by himself or just rather wait for the lady to show up? I rather chose to wait, and if she's very late, pass it to my colleague. Which eventually happened because my shift ended at 7 p.m. and my colleague said okay. Mind you, the hotel was almost empty that day anyway, so this way we could sell an extra room. Tomorrow I come to my work at 7 again. My colleague briefs me what went on, and how she actually brought the money yesterday around midnight. Said sorry, but was only able to pay 70% of the day's extended reservation, stating she would bring the money to me in the morning. I was puzzled again, but did not care, really. Now the fun part. It's 7:40 a.m. I just made myself a coffee and settled myself on the chair at the front desk again. I have a call from some random lady explaining that somebody is knocking and scratching on her walls and she can't sleep. I had no idea who that could be because she did not state any name or room numbers. So I asked for them. "I'm sorry, but I can't help you unless I know what your name is and which room you are in." "My name is Miss Random Name, and I am in room 406. Come fast, please." "I'm really sorry, but I don't recognize the name, and in that room you gave me, there is nobody at the moment, according to the reservation system. Are you sure you are calling the right hotel?" "As of now, you are calling Prague Small Hotel." "Hello?" She hung up on me. I just said whatever and moved on to my duties. After like 10 minutes, I have another call from the same number going, "Hello, this is Prague Small Hotel. How can I help you today?" "Listen up, you fat fuck. Do something about my room or I will go downstairs and personally beat you to death." "Excuse me?" She hung up again, so this time I was investigating who that could be, mainly because I am a bit fat at the moment, so she had to know me. I kinda know it could be her, but there were zero problems up until now, so I don't think of anything really. But I was kinda terrified, so I started digging. She called once again, but this time it was only death threats and more strong language towards me and the hotel. And how the hotel is using tax money to pay employees because we deleted her from the system. I was ready though. This time I shouted at my cleaning ladies to come and played it on the speaker, so I have backup evidence that somebody is threatening me. My manager showed up in the next few minutes and I proceeded to tell her the story. I asked her if she knew the name she gave me, and she said that it sounded kind of familiar and proceeded to call the number back. So she did. Surprisingly, it was her in the room 403, and there was nobody on the same floor, which the manager told her, and gave her a last chance to stop threatening the staff and pay on time. The lady insisted that I was rude and was not going to help her, and it is my fault, which my manager stood up for me, and said that she trusts me and she will always protect her staff, which, by the way, I really appreciate. Then it was silent, and I haven't seen her all day long. I was kind of scared, but you know, front desk assistant work without a security in place is what I have to deal with every day. Dude, what is about to happen is mind-blowing. Later that day, she just quickly runs past reception heading outside and did not give me any looks. Just storms past. About a minute or two later, I see her being thrown on the door by somebody. So I went to look outside. As I open the door, I see her biting a nearby store worker in the left thigh, full strength. A few people came by to help the guy, but for some reason I stood back shocked. She then storms past me while I was holding the door, shocked, and shouts at me, "You're next! I'll cut your throat open!" That was it. My final straw. I did hesitate for a second while everything sank into my brain, and called the cops seconds after. But before I did, I went next door to check on the store worker. It is a mini market with one person doing shifts all day long, and I know the guy. So he told me she ordered a pack of cigarettes and was 10 crowns short, 20 cents? Then proceeded to steal the cigarettes from his hand and punch him in the face, which I later saw on the video he provided. He also showed me the wound, and the teeth marks were showing on the skin, and the wound was at least half a centimeter deep, blood included. Later I came with some first aid, mind-blowing really. The cops came after like a minute and a half. I told them a quick briefing of the situation and had to provide backup keys for the room in case she locked herself up. I went with them. Guess what? She said to them that they finally showed up after she called them because she was assaulted, but doesn't need their help so they can go. Like, what the hell, lady? Luckily, the cops were ready to deal with her and did not trust her at all. I said I want her evicted now. That I can also return the money if she promises that she won't ever come back. Ever. Everybody agreed, but she insisted that we were all lying bastards. You know the drill. Anyway, camera footage proved otherwise, and she was evicted and nowhere to be seen again. So far. 2. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I love my job, even on the bad days. I work night audit at a hotel and I'm pretty good at it, considering that every property I've worked at, I've only left because I was hired by another hotel. I've had some shitty guests and some amazing ones, but not one of them holds a candle to Annabelle. So here's a bit of backstory. I've been having a rough couple of months. My oldest daughter, who turns 2 in May, spent about 6 weeks at Cincinnati's Children's Hospital with seizures due to a bacterial infection that she picked up who knows where, which caused her brain to swell. This happened while I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, who is now 4 months old, and had to spend 2 weeks at the same children's hospital after birth due to some respiratory issues caused by a medication prescribed while I was pregnant, something I was reluctant to take to begin with. All of this upheaval caused some things to come to light, including my husband's secret relapse into an opioid addiction, infidelity, and other assorted lies on his part. It's been weighing heavily on me, and because of everything that's happened, it's caused my schedule to fill almost unmanageably. I work 11 p.m. until 7 or 8 a.m. most days, sometimes later. My oldest daughter has physical, speech, occupational, and psychological therapy, and neuro appointments 2 days a week. I have therapy 2 or 3 times per week, plus signed up for parenting classes once a week. And I tend to pull double shifts at least once or twice every week, because all that therapy isn't cheap, nor are my antidepressants or my daughter's seizure meds. Most days I sleep only an hour or 2 at most per day, some days much less or not at all. I am perpetually exhausted, and will occasionally fall asleep standing up. Please understand I am not fishing for sympathy or compliments, just trying to inform why the situation I'm about to write seemed worthy of sharing with many internet strangers. Now, right around New Year, Annabelle checked into my hotel, a very successful and confident woman. She's staying here due to some major medical issues which she needs to be close to University of Cincinnati Medical Center for. And also because she has issues with a stalker back home who was doing all of the usual creepy stalker stuff, and cloning her phone to boot. So managed to even track her up here. This woman has a lot on her plate, and she has an odd sleeping schedule, so I see her quite often. She and I slowly started to bond and open up to each other. I told her about all of the issues I mentioned above over the last few months, and she did likewise. She loves seeing photos of my daughters. She says their goofy little faces make her whole day. Anyway, she's going to be checking out soon. She's been getting a lot of her issues resolved and has found a new area to move. I was wrapping up my shift this morning, late as usual, before my day off, and she came rushing up saying how glad she was to have caught me before I left work to run errands and spend time with my little monkey girls. She pulled me aside and handed me an envelope saying that she was sure she would see me again before she checked out and moved, but that she felt an urge to give this to me now. She thanked me for being such a ray of sunshine for her, and helping her through such a hard time, for being discreet about her staying there when people called or inquired about her, for always having a smile on my face and laughter for her to get her through her harder days, for going above and beyond what my job required of me in order to make our hotel feel like more of a home to her. She gave me a hug and thanked me again, and went off to bed. Guys, I was already a hot mess, crying because just that verbal appreciation had made my day. When I clocked out and got into my car, I opened the envelope. Inside was a note that elaborated more on what she said earlier. And also, she was sending a bunch of furniture that she didn't need to take on her move. Crate and Barrel, IKEA, and some electric antique stuff for my new place with my girls since she knew I needed it. And $300. Y'all, I lost my shit right there. I had recently had some money stolen by my mother-in-law and uncle-in-law, and had been privately panicking a bit over how I was going to cover some bills. It was more than I feel I deserved for treating another human being with basic kindness and courtesy. That's pretty much it. I'm tearing up over this now, and will be for a while, I'm sure. But I wanted to share it with you guys because we deal so much with guests that are a handful and act entitled and ungrateful for the work we do, which isn't always easy. But just remember that sometimes we do have guests that truly appreciate us for that little bit of sunshine we can bring to their day. I love you, fellow hotel workers, customer service people, etc. Keeping that smile on your face and kindness in your heart is no small accomplishment some days. Just remember that some people appreciate more than you'll know. 3. I'm sure everyone here has gotten a comment at least once or twice, but so far this has been my favorite way that a completely random person has told me my job is beyond easy. Due to the nature of the particular location I work at, we don't really have a high volume of single or family guests. It's mostly business people who have their rooms set up by their company, and they travel often so they know the drill. That means the phone doesn't often ring. When it does ring, it's usually very simple inquiries like exact dates of stays, accommodation requests, and stuff like that. Cutting to the point. I was not ready for this call. The phone rings, and I answer it with the usual spiel. Hello, and thank you for calling Hellfreezer Hotels. I give the specific location and road. How can I assist you? The man on the other end immediately asks, is this the same brand at the location in another town? No, sir. I repeat the brand and location again, including city and road. Okay, well, I've tried to call the hotel in the different town and state 3 times now, and I keep getting a busy tone. At this point, I'm definitely thrown off. I had a bad feeling when after I told him exactly where we were located, he asked if I was the hotel in a different town. Now he's telling me that the other hotel has a busy line. What in the hell is he calling me for? He sounds very angry, almost like because these 2 hotels share the same brand, I would somehow have insider information on their whole deal. I'm not paid enough to deal with this. After a pause, I finally say, "Okay," in the most understanding tone I can muster, if only because I assume some sort of explanation is forthcoming. You say okay, like I'm supposed to just know why this is happening and accept it. About here, I realize that as bad as I thought this conversation was gonna be, I was wrong. "No, sir, I'd just like to know how I can help you." "Well, you could start by telling me what's going on with the other hotel." "Unfortunately, we're in no way affiliated with that hotel, other than sharing a name. I have no idea why they're busy. I am so sorry." Naturally, this didn't go over well. "I know you're not the same hotel." "That's not what I said." "Why would their line be busy?" "This is incredibly unprofessional of them." "As I said, sir, I have no inkling as to why their line is busy." He didn't like this either. I think in his mind all hotels with the same name must be connected. I should have insider knowledge about every hotel in the country sharing our brand, especially the ones in the same state. Spoiler alert, I don't. I've never even been to this town he's mad at, let alone seen the hotel. "You should fucking be able to tell me what's going on at that hotel. It's in the same city as you, for God's sake." Another spoiler alert, no it's not. I'd also like to note that this was said with that condescending little laugh some people punctuate half-formed thoughts with, as if they're constantly amused by the circus that is a world around them, when they themselves remain a bastion of exasperated rationality. Here's where I have to take a deep breath. I reiterate to him that the hotel is not close to us or even in the same city, does not share the same property management company, so even if I did keep tabs on other hotels in my network, this one isn't in said network. Naturally, this didn't go over well either. "You know what you can do for me? You can call that hotel and tell them that I am incredibly fucking unhappy with them, and that they need to call me back now." You need me to call a hotel in another town, somehow magically bypassing their busy line, tell them some random who hasn't given me his name or number is mad at them, and then return to you like a trained dog and let you know they acknowledged, I guess? You know what? Okay, anything to get you off my line. I tell him okay, and he says, I shit you not, "Get to it then." You're just gonna have to give me a second. Like most other humans, I have to Google things when I have a problem. And my problem is I don't know the number for the hotel across the state. Surprisingly, he said nothing to this. I hit the hold button, found the only brand in that little town and called it. The number was disconnected. I hopped back on the line with Mr. Ask for Manners and let him know. "Sir, I tried the number listed for this hotel. The operator said the number was no longer in service." "Yes, I know. I'm done." "You know," he says, not realizing he's already won his bid for King Butt Chunk of Bitch Idiot Mountain, and can stop trying. "I know why this is so hard for you. I mean, for all they're paying you, I bet a monkey could have helped me more than you. I'm beyond over it. Fuck it. I'll take whatever survey scores he wants to give me." "That may be so, but that doesn't say much for you. If a monkey knows how hotels work, what's your excuse?" I gave him about 5 seconds to reply. He did not. I hung up. A lifetime rule for King Buttchunk. Long may he reign. 4. Some background. A weekend or so ago, there was a really bad storm here, and around 7 p.m. it knocked out some power in our hotel's area due to a homeowner not trimming their trees like they're required to, and a gust of wind knocking one into a high power line. I learned this from the fire department. Normally this isn't a problem for us because we are on the same line as a hospital, but the tree had a transformer that affected them as well, which is why they're required to keep the trees trimmed, to prevent things like this from happening. So, I pull up to the hotel, it's 11 p.m., and it's pitch black. Due to the loss of power, our fire alarm would go off sporadically, prompting a visit from the fire department every single time. Now, I believe in helping our guests as much as possible. They've paid for the room, I want them to be comfortable. But I also believe that most customers are animals and will take any sign of weakness as an opportunity to strike. About 11:30 p.m. when the fireman had arrived again, a guest, short man, mid-60s, thick mustache, aura radiating old-timey douchebag, you know the type, asked me in a lobby with about 20 other guests in it,
"What's my rate for the night?"
"I'm not sure, sir, I can't see that stuff right."
"Oh, I know what it's gonna be in the morning."
Like a pack of hyenas surrounding a wounded gazelle, I saw a few of them in the night go quiet and shift their eyes towards me. "Okay, well," I said, trying to maintain an even temperament, "the general manager will be in here on Monday to assess the situation and—"
"I want her in here now."
He was raising his voice, I guess, to make himself seem bigger. And like, "Yeah, bud, I'm gonna get my super late stage pregnant general manager to come down here and listen to your nonsense in the middle of the night, okay?" "Okay, well, your attitude isn't helping anything. None of us want to be in this situation, and if you'd like to leave, you are free to do so. Go to your room, or I can get the police to help you off the property." Like the coward he is, he backed away and walked towards the steps. The other hyenas guests backed down as well and went back to their conversations. I watched him round the corner, then turned my attention to the lobby. "Folks, allow me to express my sincere apologies for what is going on tonight, but we can't do anything until the power lines get fixed. According to the website, it will be completed at 1 a.m. If you all could please return to your rooms at this time, I would greatly appreciate it." They all wandered back into the hallways and stairs, cell phones and emergency lights lighting their way. I finished speaking with the fireman and settled down to watch John Wick Chapter 2, excellent film by the way, 10 out of 10, would recommend. 1 a.m. comes and goes. Odd, our power's not back on. I check the website and it should be done. I look outside, and the businesses around us have their power on, so why don't we? I check outside, I try flipping the breaker for our outdoor sign, and nothing. Great, just great. Around this time, because I am a fool and set an expectation of time, a few guests wander back down to the lobby. I don't begrudge them for this, one of them has to have a CPAP machine, and with there being no air circulation in the rooms, it was doubly hard for him to sleep. One of them was waiting on a call from the hospital and her phone had died. Again, this is not a great situation. For the CPAP guest, I loaned him my battery-powered fan so he can have a little relief, and I allow the other guest to use my power bank to charge her phone, while also trying to figure out how I can get the power restored to my hotel. I'm not an electrical person, so it took me a while, but with the help of a rep from the company who installed our trip unit, I eventually found the solution. A hand crank and loud-ass button that caused literally everything in the hotel to come on at once. Our GM did wind up refunding most of our guests, most of whom were very lovely and understood it wasn't our fault. And I wound up getting my power bank back, but not my fan. As far as the hospital goes, if y'all are wondering, I spoke with the nurse and she said they were mostly okay. Their standard elevators were out of commission. Every other light was out. A few nurses' stations were knocked out, but ultimately fine. Overall, not a bad night. Thank you for listening to this. I love you. 5. This happened way back in 2012 when I was still a lil baby FDA in my first hotel job. I'd been working at the hotel for maybe 3 or 4 months, and I was getting in some night auditor practice on a Friday night. When I came on shift, the FDA before me, Sherry, told me that the man in 320, Dennis, was a bit of a pain, and pointed out a business card with a number to call if he got out of hand. Sherry told me he had checked in and promptly went to the bar next to the desk and met a woman at the bar. The pair proceeded to get absolutely plastered, causing the woman to puke in the middle of the bar, getting them both thrown out of the bar. Sherry and Dennis gave the woman a key to his room, and then he left to go to the casino across the street. I was also told he was a short, unwashed old man with a cut above his eye he somehow got before his arrival. Sherry wanted to make sure that I knew what he looked like, but she was sure I'd know him when I saw him. A couple hours later, the buzzer to the lobby door goes off. I ask who it is, and the person says they're Dennis in room 320. I buzz him in, and he comes to the front desk. Sherry hit the nail on the head when describing him, a short, grubby white man with a big cut over one eye. Dennis wasn't alone, however. There was a tall, pretty African-American woman with him. Dennis asks for a new key to his room. I verify his ID and cut a new key. A few minutes later, Dennis and companion come back to the desk and say the key didn't work, and there was someone in his room. I tell him it's the lady he met in the bar earlier in the evening, but he insists there isn't supposed to be anyone in his room. Dennis starts yelling and cursing at me. I politely but firmly tell him I wouldn't be assisting him if he continued to use that language and yell at me. Dennis would quiet down for a minute, and then as soon as I'd say something he'd start yelling again. I would open my mouth to remind him to refrain from shouting, and the woman he was with smacked him on the arm and started yelling at him to be nicer to me. I finally get Dennis to agree to wait in the lobby while I go up to the room to check it. As I approach, I hear the TV coming from the room, and figure he just left it on. I knock on the door a couple times, announcing myself, and as I am about to walk in, I hear a woman's voice roughly shout,
Who is it?
I explained to her who I was, and that I needed her to exit the room immediately. The woman told me to hold on while she put some clothes on, and then came to the door looking like pure hell. I tell her the registered guest said no one should be in his room and she had to leave the room ASAP. She asked what she could do if she wanted to stay, and I tell her she can come down to rent a room. I leave her to go back to the lobby to explain the situation to Dennis and the other woman. I move Dennis to a different room and wait for the first woman to come down. Once she does, she realizes she can't afford to stay at the hotel and leaves to go to a Fleabag motel across the street. A few minutes later, I see the second woman hurry through the lobby and hop in a car waiting outside. Not long after that, Dennis comes down and starts harassing me. I forget exactly what he said, but he wouldn't leave me alone, and I repeatedly asked. Then told him to go back to his room or else I'd have him removed. Another lady came in looking for a room, and Dennis harassed her too. I told him that was it. I was calling the police. Dennis scurried off after that, and the lady ended up leaving. I called the number on the business card and explained the situation, and the man, I think it was Dennis's boss, told me to do what I had to do. He wasn't driving a county over at 2 a.m. to fix things for him. I called my GM to tell him I was kicking a guest out, and he said to do it, and he'd make him DNR when he came in later that day. I then called the police, who had a thankfully short response time. I told the police his room number and that I spotted Dennis wandering the halls on the cameras on a floor other than his. The police find Dennis, arrest him, and carry him off to jail, and the rest of my night is peaceful. I did hear he came back Saturday afternoon after he dried out to apologize for what happened. My GM accepted the apology, but told him he couldn't come back again or he'd be arrested for trespassing. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw number 18. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Also, thank you very much to everybody who joined me for that quick impromptu stream on Sunday. For those of you who couldn't join, I was testing things out for a possible new way to do chat streams. What I've done is I've got a little program found on Steam. So that was a lot easier than I thought. I thought I'd have to get like experimental things and do a bit of jiggery pokery to get them work, but there was no jiggery, no pokery. I was able to get it to work fine. And just installed it, bought it off Steam. I was lucky enough, it was on sale when I got it. And that essentially, it when you're in a VR environment, and in this case using the Vive, it simply adds the thing into your environment. A window of your choosing. In this case, what I do is I pop out the chat on my stream, the little pop-out window, so I pop that out, and I select that window, and then when I go into VR, the window's just kind of there, floating, next to me. And I can resize it and move about and everything, and that's fine. And so what I do is, once I knew that was working, I then decided I loaded up Google Earth in VR, and then loaded up the chat thing, and I could go about the world in virtual reality while chatting to people, and I thought that would be a bit more visually interesting, and I could, people could make suggestions. Somebody suggested I show them my hometown. That wasn't going to happen, but people can make suggestions, and we can go and check different things out. So it was just a brief stream. It was about half an hour or so, just testing things out, making sure they were working. It seemed to go all right. Not 100% happy with the audio quality because I was using the microphone on the actual Vive headset, and it was clear enough. But if I breathed too loudly, it kind of got a bit rumbly. So I'll need to see what else I can do about that. But yeah, otherwise I was pleasantly surprised that it was quite easy to set up and get going. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.